Awesome. Thank you, Lacey, and thanks everybody for being here and wanting to learn some more about the Ely Northwoods chapter. How many folks were here last year around this time for our first presentation? Okay, sweet. So kind of a mixed crowd. Very good. So I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the North Country Trail. So I don't want that to be redundant for everybody, but just to get everyone on the same page initially before we dive into the work that we've been doing at the local level. Um, yeah, so the North Country Trail is a national scenic trail. We have 11 of them in our fine country. The Appalachian Trail and Pacific Crest Trail are also national scenic trails. So it's at the same caliper as those really big trails that kind of vertically slice through the coasts, except this one goes horizontal across the Midwest and out towards the Northeast. Um, it's close to 5,000 miles long, and it's not finished being constructed. There's pieces that are on roads. And when those get shifted off the roads, which is what we're trying to do in the local area, it's going to probably get pretty close to 5,000 miles. So quite the sizable walk or hike that you could do. Fortunately, you don't have to do the whole thing. You can do pieces of it. The Kekakabic Trail locally is part of it. The Border Route Trail is also part of it. And the Superior Hiking Trail is also part of it. So probably a lot of people here have done at least a day hike on one of those trails. Um, and eventually you're going to be able to walk from Ely down to Duluth, vice versa, out to Grand Marais. So it'll be a pretty cool thing once we have it all built in this area. Um, there are about 850 miles in Minnesota. I think like 2/3 of those are off road currently. There's a pretty big chunk that's on road, basically from the Kekakabic Trail to Grand Rapids. So there's a lot of work being done in that section to get that trail off road into the forest, into some of the beautiful pines and things that are in that stretch. The Kekakabic Trail chapter, which has historically maintained the Keck Trail, is working along the Fernberg corridor to get that section off. So basically from Glippy Road out towards Snowbank, there's like a 14-mile stretch that they're going to be able to start working on, hopefully next spring, fall timeline. So that'll be a really cool opportunity for Elyites to hike on and other visitors to our town. And then the Ely group is working towards Tower and then also towards Kawashui Falls is where we're going to meet the Keck chapter. So I'll share a little bit about what our Ely chapter has been doing in the past year, and then Steve will be sharing some of the stuff that we've been looking at going towards Bearhead Lake State Park. So yeah, we've got a really cool story map that Liz Anderson has been working on. We've been trying to document the work that's been happening in the year since we became a chapter. So this is a really cool resource. Lacey might be able to distribute it to everybody if you want to look at it later on or show your friends. But yeah, so you just you can scroll through, and this is kind of our story. So we started in September 2023. We had a Tuesday group, basically like 2 weeks before we officially became a chapter of the North Country Trail. And we are the 30th chapter to be established. So there was a really nice article that was written in the North Country Trail Association magazine, which is North Star. So you can read that on our story map. We've been in a couple other publications also, including the Silent Sports magazine and a fair number of local paper articles. And so one of the first things we wanted to do was establish goals for our first year as a chapter. So the North Country Trail Association has a Hike 100 challenge where you just have to hike 100 miles on North Country Trail. So we wanted to have 10 members do that. We figured we could have close to a quarter of the total mileage of the North Country Trail could be hiked by Elyites. And we're slowly kind of getting people are turning in their form and saying that they've done those 100 miles in the past year. I don't know if we're quite at 10 yet, so if anyone's been doing a lot of hiking, we could use your miles for that. Let us know. You get a cool patch for it, which is kind of nice. And then we've wanted to host 12 hikes, so one hike a month. We're at like 8 right now, I believe. So we've got a couple more hikes to go and a couple more months till the year is over. Has anyone been out on one of our hikes that we've done? Sweet, a couple people. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us. If you want to do those, they're pretty fun. It's a good way to meet other community members and sometimes visitors to town. We became an official trail town. Some of you might have attended our celebration at the end of September. We were out at Hidden Valley, which we're hoping to have be part of the trail once it's constructed. So we're going to have signs on each of the three highways coming into town that basically just say Ely is a trail town, which is really exciting. So we've got the signs. We just have to get them put up. The city's on board with that. And yeah, trying to do a 5-year plan. We've been doing a bunch of scouting. Steve will talk some more about that. And then we've had some volunteers help out with the Keck Trail work that's been going on this season. It's been a little difficult because we have so many Elyites that are interested in becoming involved, but we don't have a trail project to work on yet. So it's been nice to have established trails that we can send volunteers to and get people out there working. And that's also going to be especially important because the Forest Service isn't able to hire as many people this coming year. So they need more volunteers than average. And then, yeah, contributing at least 250 volunteer hours. We've done that, and that helped provide a match for an equipment trailer that we got with the Kekakavik Trail chapter. So we have a really nice, like $10,000 tool trailer full of really nice tools. And some sweet electric chainsaws and things like that, because our section of trail isn't in the wilderness, so we can use stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to help out, we're going to have a lot of really nice shiny tools that need to be dented and gotten dirty. And then yeah, creating bylaws, really fun stuff. We've been trying to reach 80 for membership. We're at like 56 right now. So it'd be cool if a couple other people wanted to join today or in the next little while. It's like $40 for the year. You get some cool stickers, but also the money comes back and supports the local chapter. So yeah, we're looking for more members. We have fun events that are open to the public, but membership helps support those things. So here are some of the hikes we've done in the area. Obviously, we don't have our piece of North Country Trail yet, but we've done a pretty good job exploring a lot of the neat hikes locally, and then a little bit further out up by the Crane Lake area. So just for reference, we have a Facebook page where these all get posted, so you can follow along there. The scouting piece, Steve will hit some more on that. There's a nice little preview of the grassy lake overlook that he found out there. But of course, other people have seen stuff, so there's a couple chairs up there that existed before Steve saw it. So this is all ground that people have looked at, but getting a trail to it will be really neat. Then we've been doing the Adopt a Highway program. Figured that was another good way to get volunteers engaged and doing good for our community. And plus we got some cool signs on Highway 88 that you might have seen, just kind of turning off the Fernberg. And then between there and the Echo Trail is our section. So if you see any crazy trash, let us know. We'll pick it up. But we do a spring and a fall cleanup out there so far. We've had a lot of Zoom meetings for our chapter meetings, but we've done a couple barbecues also down at Seamers. Those have been really fun ways to meet the community and spread the word about the trail. And then we've been tabling at the festivals in town. Blueberry Festival has been really good. There's a ton of people there. Harvest Moon Festival, in our experience, seems like it has a lot more local people interested in getting involved with things. So that's been a really nice way to find new members and to kind of build our email list of interested people who don't want to commit to the membership level yet. And then we've had a trail crew go out with some members of the Ely chapter, so that's been pretty cool. This is kind of what that Trail Town sign is going to look like at the ends of town. So just a big reflective thing that's telling people that hikers are welcome and that we like trails up here. And just a couple pictures from our Trail Town ceremony here. We did a big ribbon cutting. We had the city council's support in this endeavor. To become a trail town, you kind of have to have a bunch of different groups working together on it. So the Tourism Bureau has been involved, the city council, a bunch of businesses. the Chamber of Commerce. So getting all those groups together and having this common goal has been really neat and really rewarding. Eric Campbell is the Keck Trail president, and the Keck Trail also kind of starts essentially in Ely. So it's really nice having their support and help with all this as well. And he just got a jacket for contributing 5,000 hours for volunteer work, which is a lot of days if you add it up. Yeah, so that's our story map that we can get sent out to everybody so you can share it with your friends. The other fun thing with the Trail Town celebration is we're trying to make it a regional thing. So we had hikes on the Kekakabik Trail, hikes at Hidden Valley where the main event was, and then hikes over in Tower on the Howard Wagner trails. So it was a really neat weekend with a bunch of opportunities for people. And yeah, eventually we hope to have that be kind of more encompassing of other trails in the area. Okay, so now I'll turn it over to Steve, and we can go through the map that we have been looking at as far as where we're hoping to go. It's not finalized for sure, and there's no trail to go hike yet. But Steve has some cool stories and things from his time out there scouting.
All right, thanks, Ozzie. Ozzie's doing a great job as our president, and thank him for being here. So, I'm going to start with a little story, and this involves Pete Stauber, our congressman. About 6 years ago, when the North Country Trail went originally from Duluth to Grand Rapids, right straight across, they changed it. Congress passed a law that's going to go up the North Shore and across the Keck Trail. So we had a little celebration in Duluth to celebrate the new North Country Trail. And Congressman Stauber was there, and I was there, and some other people. We all said something, and I said, "Oh, Ely's going to be the greatest trail town you've ever seen. We're all going to participate, and we're all going to make it a great trail town because we are a trail town for canoes, obviously, and we're going to be a trail town for hiking too." So Pete Stauber got up, and then I got up, and I said, "This is the first meeting I've ever been to with Pete Stauber who I actually agree with." Anyway, so that was about 2018, I think, and since then we've been working on our section of trail, which runs from Clippy Road on Fernburg to Bearhead Lake State Park. And it doesn't seem like much, but it's a real pain in the butt, I'll tell you that. All my hikes have never been with a trail group on trails. All my hikes are over brush and over deadfalls and over kind of stuff that you find in the woods these days. And I've been mapping this trail basically since last winter, I think, about this time, because we had a great winter. We had no snow, basically no snow, so I could drive on any of the roads and get to places where I wanted to start looking for the trail. And a lot of times, and basically I'm retired, as Shoni knows, it's great, isn't it? It is, I thought so. So I can go wherever I want to and take my truck and just take off and look for old deer trails, old logging roads. And although this trail goes through mostly, kind of feels like wilderness out there. There's not many houses between here and Bearhead Lake State Park, and but there are a lot of trails. A lot of people make deer trails out in the middle of nowhere, believe it or not. And I found that out. So I was lucky to find some of those deer trails. So I basically start here in Ely. I didn't do east of town. Somebody else is doing that from Whippy Road in, but I'm doing just west of town. Let's see if this thing works. Yeah, so it starts here in Ely, starts at the trail center, which is being built right now. It's going to be covering all the trails, including the North Country Trail. And it goes down the what's it called? The Taconite. Yeah, down the Taconite Trail. And it goes along the side of it actually, and it cuts across. If you can zoom in on that section, that'd be great. Yeah. So we're going to cross the watershed, and yeah, here we go. Right here, it's between the two ponds, between Pioneer Tailings Pond and Somers Lake. And then, well, we don't have it there, but that's where we're going to go, I think. We're going to go between these two ponds and then into all state land. So we're trying to stay on state land, federal land, or county land, and avoid the private land. But there's one place where we have private land, where we cannot get across any other place, and it has to go across private land. We're working with these people. Let me see, where are we? Sotlich Road. I believe it's right in here. No, we gotta go down just a little bit. Go up. Okay, right there. Yeah, we gotta go across David Vadasaw's property. And he owns this land right here. We got to go across the northern edge of his property. David died about 8 years ago, I think. His wife is living here, and his kids have some interest in it. So I'm working with his kids to get permission to do that. The land north of it is owned by a mining company that doesn't really exist. It's owned by a paper company, a company on paper. And they're called Atlas Land Company, and we cannot find anybody that owns that. So we're just forgetting about them. We're going to try to get across David Vadasaw's land, and that's the only 40 that we have private land to get across. And you know, we'll get from there. We go down between Bearhead Lake, between Mitchell Lake and Twin Lakes. So, whoops, yeah. There's a picture of some of the guys who had done that picture of that property survey. And we get between Twin and Mitchell Lakes, and we have a lot of a property that's also federal, also state. And we want to go around this little hole right here. It's an interesting piece of geologic phenomenon going on, I guess. It's a glacial lake bottom that's an ice block depression. So an ice block was left behind after the glaciers melted, and it stayed in one place. It got filled in by sand around it, and it melted.
Say that again.
What?
Can you say that again?
Would say what? Ice block depression?
Yeah.
Ice block depression. Yeah. So this is an ice block depression. It's actually about 40 feet deep. It's not very big. It's kind of elliptical. So it'd be nice to go around that, take a hiking trail and go around this so you can see it. It's got a lot of spruce growing on the bottom of it and open in the middle. It's kind of a place where Arctic plants still live, and be a place where maybe climate change would be resisted there. So we get between those lands, between those two lakes. I keep looking at your pointer. It's not mine. We're going to go across the snowmobile trail right here. It's the only way across this piece of land, this piece of water, is to get across on the snowmobile trail. And then get across really quickly, and we take this left. It's called what's it called? The cow path. Yeah, it's called the cow path. And it's an existing trail. It gets us down to what's it called? Muckwa Lake Road, which runs along Johnson Lake. So here's a picture of Muckwa Lake. It's a high ridge that extends on the west side of this little fork of the Beaver River, and in the middle there is a crossing across a beaver pond, a beaver access right here. This is it's dried up because there was a pond here. The pond washed out, beaver dam washed out, and it makes a nice place to see a dried up beaver pond actually. And it's all the rocks are stained white. There's a calcareous deposit on all the rocks. It's neat to see. And it's actually a place where you could camp if you wanted to. So do we have a picture of that? What is yes? I had it. Not that one. Yeah, it's okay. Okay. So from there, we head south towards Johnson Lake. And we get into a lot of brush and a lot of blowdowns and a lot of junky stuff. So we got a lot of cutting to do in there. That's one place where there is no trail. And from there, from where the Muckwa Lake Road comes in, right here, all the way down here on the Beaver River, there's an old road that exists. Muckwa Lake Road actually still exists. It's not passable by anything, not by snowmobiles or four-wheelers or not by people really, but we can open it up really quickly and use that piece of land and have that trail go all the way down to Beaver River. And it's passable by foot, but that's about it. And then we go across the Beaver River. There's a little split in the Beaver River where there's rapids. So we go across the Beaver River, and then we can't really, I explored this section of trail from the west, from over here to the east, to Beaver River again, but I never got past that point right there. I've been in there twice and I always got stuck right there. I had to leave the last time at 2:30 before it gets dark. And but it's a nice hike. It goes on an old hunting trail, actually. Perfect little hunting trail. It goes right through the woods, kind of splits up in here. We went around in circles for a while. We finally, Nancy and I got in there in the wintertime. And then last week I went in with Steve Erickson and we got to right there, and that's where we had to end. So we still haven't explored this last 100 yards to the Beaver River, but I'm sure we can do it somehow. And then, so we go west to, this is all Forest Service land in here, by the way. It's all Forest Service, so it's easy to get permission to use that land. And then we cross the $4 million bridge, the $4 million bridge, which is owned by Prospector Trail. That's the only way across the Beaver River. Where are you? Right here. No, right here, right? Is that it? That's the old map. This is the new map right here. Yeah, yeah. So this is the old trail across Beaver River. It doesn't exist anymore. They took it down. They got rid of it, and they built the beautiful, probably 300-yard long bridge there. If you've ever been on a four-wheeler, you've been across it. It's great. If you bring your dog, don't let them lick the wood because it stinks. It's all preserved with something. Yeah.
The dotted white line, someone undo
This line here. I don't know. But snowmobile trail, do you know?
Yeah, maybe.
It's not us. So I've been concentrating on where we're going to go and not where we're not going to go. So then we get across this bridge and we were confronted with the Piragis Lake Scientific and Natural Area. So in SNA, you can't have a trail across. They just won't. They don't have anywhere place in Minnesota they allow a trail across the SNA. So we have to go around the SNA because as soon as you get right here across the bridge, you have to go across the SNA. So we have to go up all the way around. This is the Prospector Trail. We're going to put a trail beside it somewhere. We'll get around Purvis Lake and then follow the snowmobile trail. It's the only really way to get from the Purvis Lake landing down to where we want to go. So we'll have a small section that won't really be part of the North Country Trail because we'll be on a snowmobile trail for just a little bit to get to where we want to go. So that puts us into this area, which is snowmobile trail goes this way. Oh, it goes this way, and our trail splits off and heads towards Grassy Lake Overlook over to the west. We're almost to Bearhead State Park now. So yeah, there's the Grassy Lake Overlook. This is the last time we went in there with some friends, and it's a beautiful place. I happened to just drive in there one day and found this trail that leads up in the woods, and there are two chairs there where people sit and overlook the lake. It's on the borderline with Bearhead Lake State Park, but it's not in State Park. Bearhead Lake State Park gets a little more picky about where the trail is going to go. And they don't want you on top of the ridge, they want you behind the ridge, so you don't damage plants and all that. But for this point, we can get to the overlook of Grassy Lake, also known as Beaver Lake, just to make things more confusing. And then from there, we just go, we have a trail that goes right through the woods down to the portage to, we don't have a trail, but we're gonna have to make a trail, down to the portage to Grassy Lake. And then down in here, we get on the Bearhead Lake State Park trails. And that's the end of our junket. Our duty is done at that point. And we turn it over to the Tower Branch, who has more problems, but they've got a trail as well. So we won't be able to do this trail right now. We have to wait until we get permission from the state to even put trail markers on the trees, but we kind of know exactly where it is. We mapped it on our phones, on our computers, but it'll probably be 2 years before we're able to actually start construction. So it's a long-term project, and I think we've got most of it scouted out pretty well. If the DNR approves our use of our property, use of our trail, and we'll be able to at least mark the trees. Then a couple of years from now, we'll be able to start cutting trees to get into where we want to go. So that's it. Yeah, it's fun. Yes.
Provide you with a form and you have a uniform set. Does the DNR provide you with a form of easement so that you have a uniform set of easements all along the trail?
Yes, and they wanted to do it all as one group, as one from Lake Superior all the way to Grand Rapids. But we said we can't do it. It's gonna come in segments. So we're still negotiating with them about how we're gonna do this. We want to do our segment that they're all on. That's a lease with them, so that we can use their land and use the Forest Service land too. Most of our trails on Forest Service, like it is out east of Ely, but not all of it. So whenever you get on state land, not county land, federal land, but state land, the state gets picky. They seem to be pickier than any other entity about where they want their trails. And they say no campsites on DNR property. What? No campsites on DNR property? No, you can't have campsites on DNR property. So all of our campsites we have marked on here are all on county land and federal land. And when you go into the state park, they get really picky about where they want their trails there. And it's okay. So we don't have too much of that land to deal with. So we're dealing with it. That's okay. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over right now. Soda, you're here. Good to see you, man. Yeah, he's the guy that walked the whole trail.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon. My name is Aaron. I am originally from Rochester, Minnesota, where I lived for 23 years. I ran a business down there and I raised my family. Back in 2015 is when I decided to embark on a new journey in my life and try backpacking. I'd never hiked before. I hadn't even hiked a mile, I don't think. And I ended up going down to Florida, where I ended up in the Everglades, and I embarked on a journey up to Miami, hiking the Florida Trail. 2,000 miles or 1,200 miles later, 2 months, I did finish that trail. I came back to Rochester, Minnesota for a very brief short time and had decided that this is what I wanted my next chapter of my life to be. So I had sold off my business. I sold my house, sold all of my belongings, and put the rest of it in a 10x10 storage unit and started hiking these National Scenic Trails around America, ending up on the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, the Centennial Trail, multiple other trails around the country. After a few years of doing that, I went over to Europe and started hiking some of the caminos, GR 76 across the Pyrenees Mountains. And then ended my European stay with hiking from the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. That brought me to 2020 when COVID hit and all travel stopped. And unfortunately, this new way of life that I had came to an abrupt end. And in that time, I lost my mother as well. So for the next 2 years with dealing with my mother's death and the whole isolation of being in quarantine and lockdown, I thought my next best bet, since I couldn't hike, was to reminisce and actually think back about all the hikes I'd been doing and just kind of reassess my life at that. And the number one thing that kept coming back up was this North Country Trail, which was the very first hike or trail I'd seen back when I was 13. I was actually up at Snowbank Lake in the Boundary Waters and seen a blaze on the trail. Went home, did some research, and found out I could walk all the way to Vermont from that one campsite. So that's what kept coming up through these 2 years of not being able to hike, was this trail that had led me down this path. And I thought that since I was already quarantined for 2 years, the only thing connecting me to Rochester was gone now, my mother, that this was a perfect time to hike the North Country Trail. And I was ready to get back out onto these trails, live the trail life, just survive with everything that I needed on my back again. That's kind of what I was craving. And in 2022, I found myself out in North Dakota at the northern terminus of the North Country Trail. I started walking March 27th with the sole intention of just getting back into this trail life, getting back to the roots of why I started this walking lifestyle. And I very quickly found out that the lessons I was going to learn on this trail were very different than what I'd expected. I was like, again, I was trying to get back into this whole trail life. I was wanting to be in with these few other people that had hiked this trail. I wanted the notoriety of being able to hike the entire North Country Trail. But what I found out was that it was the community that I was in, the community that was all along this trail. Within 50 miles of me starting, I was in a grocery store at Turtle Lake, North Dakota, and a lady started asking me about my story. After speaking with her, she had let me go around the entire grocery store, filling up 2 bags with whatever I wanted. It set me on my way. A few hundred miles later, I was coming through Maplewood, Minnesota. A lady reached out to me, bought me a YMCA pass so I could sit in the sauna in the hot tub. For 2 days actually, which was a lifesaver because I started feeling ill while I was in this YMCA. Lo and behold, I had been infected by a virus. And two days later, I was in the hospital dealing with this infection that I had, almost going septic, on the verge of going septic. That's when I decided that instead of grinding miles and instead of trying to get back to this trail life that I had and becoming one of these few people hiking this trail, I wanted to start experiencing what this trail had to offer, not this weird, crazy goal that I had imagined. I wanted to actually live the trail instead of hiking this trail. I was going to be coming through these places only once in my life. I was only going to get this one shot of hiking this trail. I wanted to experience this trail. So I started taking every opportunity of stopping whenever I came across a member of a local chapter, a volunteer, or just somebody that was just interested in my story and actually involving myself with what I've learned, which included in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, coming through and meeting Matt Davis and the Arrowhead chapter that was building 7 miles of new trail, pulling it off the road. I ended up stopping for 2 days and helping these guys, this local chapter, build this trail, which I thought was amazing, being able to hike a National Scenic Trail, but also get the opportunity of building the trail as well at the same time of hiking it. I had no idea what maintaining or building trails was. I thought trails just kind of showed up in the woods and we as hikers came by. I thought animals made it. I had no idea what it took to build these trails, and stopping for those 2 days was such an eye-opener. I continued on and came through the northern part of Minnesota, where I met a couple of lodge owners who actually, to this day, one of them became my boss and offered me a place to live, so my landlord as well. I came through northern Wisconsin to the Heritage chapter in Copper Falls, Wisconsin, and found a crew of maintenance people or trail angels. I'm not quite sure who they were, but they were they were repainting blazes. They wanted me to actually stop and help them as well. So make a long story short, by the time I got out to Michigan, I was weeks and weeks and weeks behind schedule. There was no possible way that I was going to make it up because I had changed this whole goal of my hike into experiencing the trail instead of the trail. So I decided to quit the trail when I got out to Michigan and the Ohio border. That's when the Michigan chapter, one of the chapters of Michigan, called wind that I was going to quit this trail and actually go back home. And they put together a set of 7 different trail angels, including Luke Jordan, who was one of the previous through hikers of the North Country Trail, and kind of my idol. He's from Minnesota, a native, and he wrote a book about the North Country Trail, which also inspired me to hike this trail. One day he showed up out in the woods to hike with me. After a week of these people showing up in the woods to hike with me, it dawned on me that these people were coming up to the woods to hike with me to make sure that I wasn't going to walk to a bus station or to a train station. And they also were who was responsible for saving my hike in the sense of talking me through going out to Vermont at that point and walking back to Ohio instead of trying to get to Vermont for the winter fell. So that's what I did. This after spending a week with all these trail angels and Luke Jordan hiking with me, I decided to go to Vermont and hike back to Ohio. But I had to have one major change. This is I can't stop every single time someone wants. And so I had reached out to the Trail Angel Network and the local chapters, and I just told everybody out in Vermont, in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio that if you guys want to help, I'll accept the help, but it cannot involve stopping. And so those next few months were spent by trail angels coming out to the trail and offering me gifts out on the trail or hiking with me on the trail, picking me up from the trail, taking me home to sleep with them. And there's a whole group in Ohio that actually slacked back, which involves coming to the trail and taking my gear for me and letting me walk 30 miles and then coming back to the trail and giving my gear back at the end. And there was a group in Ohio that did that for 350. So I didn't have to carry any of my gear. So that was their way of giving back, even though I couldn't stop. So December 5th, after 6 pairs of shoes and 4,800 miles, I arrived at Defiance, Ohio, and that's where I ended my hike. With a new whole sense of what this journey meant to me. Like I said, I was doing this hike because it was a dream of mine, because I wanted to get back into the lifestyle, and because I wanted to be in that notoriety of finishing the North Country Trail. But what I found out was that my faith in humanity actually got restored. We all know what COVID did to us all mentally and physically. The death of my mother really affected me bad. So I wasn't really in a good spot when I left for that hike. And when I finished that hike, I had all the faith in humanity restored. I look back at all the kindness that people did. I started counting and I had to stop because there was well over 1,000 people that took me into the site and offered me kindness just out of the goodness of their heart. I never once asked for it. I never once promoted it. It was all given to me out of the kindness of their heart. And that's what showed me was my true reason of hiking this hike, was to actually get back into that mindset, to show me what the communities along this trail actually had to offer. And so after thinking about all that, after my hike, I ended up back up in Ely. I wanted to take a couple more years off of hiking after such a long trek. I didn't want to keep grinding and get out of that mindset. And so I came up to Ely. I'm living up at Snow Lake Lodge now. I volunteered for the Gekikavik chapter, helping build the Fernberg corridor. And it just feels like the right reason to hike that trail was actually to experience the communities along the trail and what they can actually do to offer these hikers that are coming through. If you're interested in being connected to the trail, hopefully something I said can help you do that. I just want to give you a little bit of perspective of what the trail communities are for the hikers themselves. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Aaron and Steve. Yeah, if you're interested in becoming involved in the local chapter, finding out ways to help hikers as a trail angel. You can check out the Ely Northwoods Chapter Facebook page or send us an email, or if you scan the QR code, that'll take you to the membership link. But yeah, I think Ely is a really great community here, and I think we have a lot of potential to really help the people that are coming through our town. I don't know how we're doing on time, but if we want to do some questions, yeah, we can. If you have questions for any of us, just let us know who you want to ask.
I have a question. For scouting, for looking for campsites, are you kind of figuring out where those exist? Do they exist? And kind of what's the process for that?
Yeah, there are no real campsites between here and Fairhead and Lake State Park. So we have wherever there's a county land or federal land, like on the lakes, on Mitchell Lake or on Twin Lakes, those would be good places for campsites. We haven't decided where we'd like to do that. Or Johnson Lake is another one. You can take a side John to the west and get on Johnson Lake, and that's all federal land too. So, and just the creek, Fairhead, Beaver Creek, with a washed out beaver dam would be a great place to camp at. With water running through and flat and it's open. So, so far we haven't really decided on where they're gonna go. We need about one every 5 or 6 miles, something like that, maybe. So maybe 2 campsites. It's gonna be, one thing I want to say about our trail from here to Fairhead Lake State Park, it is woodsy. It's right in the middle of nowhere. So you won't see other houses along the way. So you're really gotta, there's no habitations to get into. You can hike it all in one day if you wanted to, but it's a long day. So you really have to have some place to camp along the way or pull out. You can take a trail off to the side and get out if you wanted to. That's about it. We need some campsites. Oh, yeah.
I realized I forgot an announcement, which is that on Monday, November 11th at 5 p.m., Ozzie is presenting Tales from the Trail as a follow-up to his Kekakabik and Border Route Trail, in which he had all homemade, well, essentially mostly homemade gear. Ozzie, do you want to annotate that at all? I'm sorry, I forgot to say it at the start of the hour.
No, that's all good. Yeah, that's a good description. We'll be doing a What's Up Ely podcast recording also, so 2 birds with 1 stone. So if you want to see a live podcast recording and maybe ask questions and stuff, yeah, you can hear about having really sore feet in the woods.
Really sore feet in the woods after having made 2 sets of your own shoes. Oh, that'll be at the Ely Folk School on Monday, November 11th at 5 p.m. Yes, Frederica, what is your question? I'll hold the mic because it's the fuzzy one.
Sounds good, like fuzzy mics. You talked about membership, which is great. I need to do that even if I'm not hiking on that trail. Can you talk a little bit about fundraising, how you would fund the campsites and other things so that we have an idea how much we really should be giving you?
For sure, yeah. So the North Country Trail Association is a nonprofit partner for the National Park Service. And so that's based in Lowell, Michigan, that has all these like volunteer chapters around. So we get a little bit of funding through membership, but then also we accept donations. First, kind of the bigger projects, that'll definitely be like a lot of grant work. Because if we're, say like a section needs a conservation corps crew to work on it, it's like, I think $10,000 to $15,000 for a 2-week stint of that. So big chunks of change there. There's a couple spots where we might need bridges and things that could be pretty expensive. So I think a lot of that will hopefully come from grants, but we're certainly looking for donors if people want to contribute. We do things like those barbecues and stuff that take up money. They're good community events as well. So kind of at this stage, we don't have a big fundraising goal locally that we're looking for. But I think as we start building trail, we might be looking a little bit more for that, or people to sponsor like more chainsaws or things like that. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
You could have a bridge named after you.
100,000.
Shown and hold on to die.
Is there a reason you don't use bike trails, or do you use some bike trails in the North Country Trail?
No.
Yeah, so currently the route is on the Mesabi Trail. That's like what's on the map if you look at the big map. But the official designation of the trail is supposed to be a dirt footpath. So having it be a paved bike trail is really nice for biking, but it's not to the definitions that Congress established for the National Scenic Trail system.
Even using the snowmobile trail for a couple hundred yards, not legally what you're supposed to do. But there's one place where we have this snowmobile trail. It's the only way we can get there, so we have to use that. But you know, it can't be a hiking trail or a four-wheeler trail. Four-wheelers obviously have a lot more money than we do. We're just making a footpath through the woods, so we don't need millions of dollars, but we need some. We need a bridge over the Beaver River. So yeah, 100,000 would name it after you, Sharon.
Like I said, get yourself a bridge.
Ozzie, at the beginning, you had a whole list of hikes that have happened. How does a person learn about those? Where are they advertised? Or
Yeah, so check out our Facebook page. We try to post those with a pretty good notice usually. We had a kind of a meetup group also, but the person running that is unfortunately moving south. So she was really great for kind of organizing hikes, and was surprised that the Ely area didn't have something like that. So she kind of took that under her wing. But yeah, check out our Facebook page. That's a good spot to see it.
I'm just curious about how the arrangement with the Superior National Forest works for campsites, because once you're outside of the boundary waters, you can, in theory, camp wherever you want, right? And
Yeah.
so, but their preference must be that you establish some sort of a campsite. Can you explain how you're looking at that, or how you work with them on that?
Yeah, so the proposal, kind of this route that we've drawn on a map, has to be submitted to the DNR and the Forest Service for their review eventually. With the Glippy to Snowbank section, they, I think, have like 3 campsites on that stretch. So when the Forest Service is doing their study on that stretch, they've looked at the impact of the trail and then the impact of creating campsites in those locations. So I think that'll be kind of a similar process where it gets submitted with those campsites as kind of a package to the Forest Service, and then they can do their archaeological and environmental studies on those areas to see what's there.
Getting a little ahead of yourself right now. We haven't gotten to that point where we've planned campsites. We're just walking through the woods trying to find a trail to get to Bear Head State Park. But there's a lot of great places where there could be camps.
I'll round out with the last question here. I imagine that the designation of Trail Town comes with a certain kind of responsibility. And what do you think you want everyone here to know is their relationship or their responsibility to honor the fact that we're a trail town?
Dang, that's a good question. I guess, yeah, just the average Ely, I think, Aaron, you might be able to speak better to it, but I think just recognizing that people walking through town with backpacks is a really cool thing. And if you can give somebody a ride or buy them something at Zups or buy them an ice cream at Northern Expressions, I think that would be a really cool kind of face that Ely can show the world.
Trail angels.
Yeah, the small things. Aaron, do you want to throw anything on that?
Yeah, just exactly that. You know, just the feeling of coming through this town. I think when I came through, I stopped at Piragis. You know, the welcoming of these hikers coming through this town is just amazing, especially when we've been out there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And not everybody treats us well as we come through town. So when we come into a town that's very friendly and the store owners are interested in our stories or our hikes, or people are just honking even as we walk by, much less once we start getting gifts. It's wonderful, you know. It's so motivating for these hikers. So just being aware of what these hikers are actually doing out there, and even the people are volunteering for the trail too. They're just as important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of the work you're doing to make this trail a reality and to elevate our community. Thank you so much.